Those of you who've been watching our channel, you guys know exactly how much we love creature flicks of all kinds. There's nothing I enjoy more than a nice shark attack film, even if it's cringe as hell. So as someone who recently watched Thrash on Netflix, I'm here to tell you that recent creature features are simply no match for those that came out all the way back in the 80s. I'm talking no CGI, rubber monsters, buckets of slime, and a whole lot of awfully scary practical effects that would shock you out of your seat. They weren't sophisticated blockbusters or anything like that, and most of them were just messy, low-budget projects, but that's exactly why they're a must-watch. Of course, everyone remembers classics like The Thing or An American Werewolf in London, but there's actually a shit ton of forgotten 80s creature features that deserve your attention. And today, we're exploring 8 such films that are either creepy or accidentally hilarious, and once you watch them, you'll keep wanting more. So, let's get started. The Nest, 1988. We're straight away starting off with a film that will make your skin crawl within the first few minutes. And if you hate creepy crawlies, this one's definitely not for you. The Nest, directed by Terrence H. Winkless, takes place in this small island town called Northport, where the local sheriff, Richard Tarbell, wakes up one day to find a bunch of cockroaches in his house. That's no big deal, right? Well, wrong. Because things started getting very, very weird. Pets started turning up as carcasses, local livestock started disappearing. Something was seriously wrong. Turns out, a corporate company called Intech, run by a geneticist, had been doing illegal experiments on the island to create a mutant strain of cockroaches that would kill the normie ones. But of course, nature did its thing, and these mutant creatures got completely out of hand, and instead of dying, they became even more deadly. They became resistant to pesticides, and developed an insane hunger for fresh, warm meat. Funnily enough, because the film was made on a pretty bare-bones budget, producer Roger Corman actually recycled explosion footage from his previous 1980 monster hit called Humanoids from the Deep. Now wait guys, there's another twist that really makes this creature feature one glorious film. You see, the roaches could mutate into these insanely weird hybrids of whatever they had eaten before. And that led to the film's crazy iconic climax where we saw a literal nightmare fuel, a human cockroach queen hybrid. And oh, the practical effects. I'm telling you guys, no amount of CGI could ever recreate what this film did. And guess what? Because they had such huge volumes of cockroaches they required, they used like thousands of real ones. Some rumors even say that the roaches escaped into the actors' dressing rooms. In fact, the studio it was shot in was plagued by roaches for years to come, and that's exactly what makes this film so special. It's fun and pretty fast-paced, and the practical mutations are an absolute blast. Cellar Dweller, 1988. Next up, we have John Carl Buechler's 1988 cult classic, Cellar Dweller, which is basically like EC Comics coming to life. Quite literally. It stars Jeffrey Combs as Colin Childress, who's a super successful horror comic book artist, but the twist is that he takes inspiration from an ancient book of dark magic. And of course, on one seemingly normal late-night drawing sesh, his terrifying creation comes to life, killing him. Then flash forward 30 years, and we see that his home has been converted into an avant-garde-like art institute run by Mrs. Briggs. And that's when history repeats itself as a new student named Whitney Taylor opens up the sealed boxes in the cellar and decides to continue Childress's unfinished comics. Like, come on girl, there was a reason those were sealed and stuffed in the cellar. But just as she draws, once again, the monstrous flesh-eating cellar dweller comes to life. And it is the monster who's the true star of this film. It is brought to life by some insane special effects, with Mike Deak wearing a super detailed creature suit. And guys, believe it or not, director John Carl Buechler shot this entire movie in like 10 days on a budget of $900,000 in Italy. The atmospheric lighting was incredible, and in certain moments, it almost made the monster look real. And I love the set design of the cellar with dripping water and arcane symbols. Of course, given the budget, the prosthetics and animatronics will definitely make you a fan. Yes, it's cheesy at times, but you'll still love it, guys. The Kindred, 1987. If you're a fan of body horror and genetic experiments gone wrong, stop everything you're doing and go watch The Kindred. Directed by Jeffrey Albro and Stephen Carpenter, the film follows John Hollins, who's a geneticist. and his world-renowned scientist mother, Amanda, has a massive heart attack. Now on her deathbed, she tells John that he's got to go back to their childhood home and destroy all her past research and experiments. But the big, dark family secret is actually that he had a biological brother named Anthony. So now, John gathers up a group of scientist friends to sort through his mother's research and journals, but little does he know that one of them has more sinister plans in mind. And the creature in this film is Anthony, who's still breathing and living within that old house as a tentacled human octopus. Yeah, you can call it a B-movie, but boy, does it have some spectacular practical effects. There's this one scene where a character is driving a car, and a part of Anthony slithers inside a watermelon on the seat next to her, and then suddenly, tentacles burst out from the fruit and wrap around her face and hands. Holy cow, was that scene something else. The production worked their asses off on the puppetry and the hydraulic pumps and whatnot, and it is so visible. The tentacles feel almost real with how fluidly they move. And beneath all the monster chaos, there's actually some substance here about unethical experimentation and obsession with science, and even some parental guilt just simmering beneath the surface. But if there's one reason to watch the film, it's Anthony. The Being, 1983. Now this film takes 1980s environmental anxieties and cranks them up to a 12. The Being, which was Jackie Kong's directorial debut, starts off in Pottsville, Idaho, where people have started suddenly vanishing without a trace. And it all started with the disappearance of a little boy named Michael Smith. Then we find teenagers decapitated, people slaughtered at the drive-in, and at every crime scene, there's this glowing pool of radioactive green slime. Of course, the corrupt mayor Gordon Lane doesn't want anyone to find out about all of this because it'll ruin the town's potato business, and so he even hires a chemical safety engineer named Garson Jones, played by the great Martin Landau, to help him cover it up. But Detective Mortimer Lutz is hell-bent on finding the answers as he investigates the trail of bodies. And that's when we find out that Pottsville is actually a massive underground nuclear waste dump. But most importantly, the killer creature is actually the mutant that's been born out of the little boy's remains. Now, fun fact, Kong was actually just a college graduate when she was given a $4.5 million budget by her then-husband, Bill Osco, who also played the lead character of Detective Mortimer Lutz, even though Kong had no filmmaking experience whatsoever. But oh my god, she did such a good job. The monster is this terrifying mass of mutated flesh, and the final climax has everything from shotguns to poison gas to a beaker of acid. Yeah, the movie's rough around the edges, and critics thought it was a cheap mess. But it has personality, guys, and it just wonderfully captures the whole 80s panic. Alligator, 1980. Now this is something that I'm definitely biased towards. There is nothing better than alligator and crocodile movies, whether that's Lake Placid or Blackwater or even Methgator. Yeah, that's a film. And this one is right up that alley, but with a pinch of that 80s weirdness. Alligator is a brilliant satirical creature feature where a young girl on a vacation in Florida gets a cute little baby alligator and names him Ramon. When she gets back home, she's forced by her father to flush Ramon down the toilet. And guess where the flush leads? Well, the sewer system, of course. Then, over the next 12 years, Ramon survived on the carcasses of laboratory dogs that had been injected with growth hormones. So you can just imagine what Ramon had mutated and turned into. A 36-foot-long alligator. Don't even know if you can still call him an alligator. And eventually, his taste led him straight to humans. Once again, we've got a detective on the job investigating the sewers. A fun fact here, Ramon, who was basically an animatronic alligator, ended up being donated to the Florida Gators of the University of Florida and actually became their team mascot. Now, what is it that sets Alligator apart from all the billion croc films that have been made? It's actually the allegory or metaphor behind Ramon. If you think about it, the alligator kind of represents social justice as he eats his way up the socioeconomic ladder. Ramon starts off with sewer workers, then moves on to middle-class neighborhoods, until finally crashing a lavish, fancy-ass high society wedding. And if you're still looking for a reason to watch, there's a scene involving a backyard swimming pool and a young boy that no CGI could ever match up to. Slugs, 1988. Okay guys, I have to warn you, if you have a weak stomach then you might want to skip this one. Slugs, directed by Juan Picur Simon, is an absolutely disgusting and unhinged gore fest. It's based on the horror novel by Sean Hudson, and the premise is pretty simple. We're in the town of Ashton, which once again has a toxic waste dump under a local factory, and chemicals are leaking into the sewer lines. But this time, it's not alligators, it's garden slugs. They're mutating into these aggressive little creatures with razor-sharp teeth and a never-ending appetite for human flesh. Fortunately, local health inspector Mike Brady is on the case. Now, let me tell you, the body horror here is next level. There's this one scene where a gardener's hand is being chewed raw by a slug, and he literally hacks off his own hand. It's a mess. And somehow, that's not even the best scene. There's an even worse restaurant scene where a man eats a salad containing a little chopped up piece of a mutant slug, and I won't even tell you what happens next, because you've just gotta watch it. And these guys used real slugs along with practical prosthetics, but since the slugs were tough work, they mainly focused on the graphic makeup. And obviously, the work was brilliant because the movie went on to win the Goya Award for Best Special Effects. Hell, it was even banned in Queensland, Australia. The Brain, 1988. Next up, we've got one hell of a creative sci-fi horror film from Canada, which gives a whole new meaning to creature features. Ed Hunt's The Brain revolved around Dr. Blake, who is the super charming and charismatic leader of Independent Thinking, which is a self-help TV show that, in reality, just brainwashes and hypnotizes anyone who watches it and turns them into mental slaves. In fact, they've managed to do it to an entire population of a small town. But wait guys, there's one kid who's immune to it, and his name is Jim Majlewski. He's this trouble high school prankster who ends up in Dr. Blake's institution and plans on exposing it. So what's the creature? Well, it's literally the brain that Dr. Blake uses, which is actually an alien that helps in the whole brainwashing. And the creature is a fully animatronic puppet that had way too many off-screen technicians pulling cable rigs and whatnot. Now, I will be honest guys, the film does lack quite a bit in filming and storyline, that does drag a bit, but it's still something. And it does have some social commentary about media control and consumer manipulation, if you're willing to look that deep.
Happy birthday, Bill.
Spookies, 1986. And guys, last but not least, we've got Spookies. And before getting into the plot, I've got to explain the backstory. First, directors Brendan Faulkner and Thomas Doran shot a complete feature film called Twisted Souls. But the financial backer, Michael Lee, wasn't entirely satisfied and brought in director Eugenie Joseph, who got a whole new cast of characters and shot a shit ton of unrelated footage. Then the two sets of footage were taken, spliced together somehow, and the final result was Spookies. At times, there are literally characters disappearing from the movie entirely without any explanation, and that's why there's pretty much no narrative coherence or plot in this film. The main idea is that there's a powerful warlock named Creon who lives in a gothic mansion and needs to procure human sacrifices to maintain the eternal youth of his beautiful bride. But then a group of partiers crash into the estate and Creon unleashes hell on them with an endless army of nightmarish monsters. Now, if you're looking for a film that'll make sense, Spookies is not it. But if you're looking for a creative watch where creature designs reign supreme and you're ready to lean into the absurdity, Spookies is actually not a bad time at all. And that brings us to the end of this list, guys. Regardless of whether the creatures were real cockroaches or animatronic alligators, one thing is for sure. These production and special effects teams have put in countless sleepless nights, burned fingers, and buckets of sweat. And the final results might not be perfect, but they're nothing that CGI could ever recreate. Imagine having real slugs and roaches on set today? Never. That stuff was only for the 80s. If you guys think we've missed any other underrated creature feature, let us know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more such movie recs, and we'll see you next time.